Okay, coaches are here. People are here. Not that coaches aren't people, but everybody's here. So we've got a lot going on. One, I have a presentation. And whether or not you've been with us for the past 2 weeks, you can start right now. So if you've been with us and you did everything perfectly and you crushed it with the functional 6, and last week you did the 9-minute and the 12-minute and then made up your own 16-minute routine and you're ready to keep going forward, you shouldn't be making up your own routines, but you're ready to keep going forward, great. Today is going to kick you forward. But if you're here going, what is this group I joined, but I don't really understand it, and it's kind of confusing, and there's lots of stuff, and people talking to me, and cooking, and wearing camel heads, and what is this all about? Tonight is going to be the beginning for you. Okay, so regardless of where you're at, this webinar is going to take you to the next level. Is everybody ready to go to the next level? Because that's where you're going right now. So far, we covered a lot of ground. We spoke about a lot of things. This isn't just an exercise program, and I think you have a sense of that right now. But even the exercise portion alone isn't conventional, because every exercise program addresses muscle, and of course we address that, but we also address breath and the lymphatic system and circulation and movement, the way the body was designed to move. So we're going to continue that process, and we're going to talk about exercise, and we're going to talk about movement, and we're going to talk about the body. But before we do, I want to talk about thoughts. A person is limited only by the thoughts that he, and you notice I put an S in there, so it's not sexist, she chooses. A person is limited only by the thoughts that he or she chooses. See, not everybody realizes we choose the thoughts we entertain. And sometimes thoughts show up and we can dismiss them, or we can argue them. But we choose the ones that we hold on to, only if we understand that that is within our power. E.B. White, does anybody know what E.B. White was the author of? If you do, you can just type it in that little chat window. I'm just curious. It is not Alice in Wonderland. Does anybody know? Kristen Camella, of course. That's why they call her doctor. Holden got it too, but he's probably sitting next to Kristen. You're copying. You're cheating. No, I believe you knew that. Charlotte's Web, and also I think Stuart Little. E.B. White said, "The world is full of people who have never since childhood met an open doorway with an open mind." You know, we get shut down as children. As children, we have this wild imagination. And if somebody says, what do you want to be when you grow up? We could be anything. Be an astronaut, could be a dinosaur, whatever we want to be. But then as we go through school, we get shut down and people say things like, come on, be realistic. Don't be ridiculous. Don't be absurd. Stop daydreaming. And if we listen to those voices, we do. And we give up our power to entertain thoughts that can really take us wonderful places. So I want you to see that door again. I want you to recognize the door is there, and you can walk through it, because if you are in fact in control of your thoughts, and your thoughts determine your destiny, then you are in control of your destiny. Are you? Yes. If you accept this gift. As a Man Thinketh. As a Man Thinketh is a book that I got my hands on around 1988. I was 28 years old. And I was going through a little bit of a career crisis. And I had always kind of believed in positive thinking. And I always really was good at visualizing and making things happen and setting goals. But when I read this book, it crystallized. As we think, so shall we be. Now, since then, I have probably purchased over 250 copies of the book. I've always had copies of it in my home, in my office, on my phone. Why would I buy so many copies? Because I've given it to every employee. That's how much I think of this book. You want it? Who wants it? Raise your hand if you want it. I'm going to send it to you right this minute, I think. Stay with me. I'm going to do the best I can to send you this book. right this very minute, or in the next minute. One of these minutes. Here it comes. Did you get it? You should have seen a link in that chat window, and if you didn't, it'll come to you after we finish. And if it still doesn't, or you want another copy, you will be able to download it from the group. So this book gives you power. And here's a quote from James Allen, who wrote As a Man Thinketh sometime around 1900. A man's mind may be likened to a garden which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. We can choose our thoughts and cultivate those thoughts, or we could just let them happen randomly. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth in kind. Cultivating your thoughts gives you control over your outcomes. Now, I appreciate Tasso spoke about it, and I've heard many of you speak about it. Tony spoke about it in his presentations. Wendy just posted that she has it thanks to Troy. So there's a reason the coaches recommend this book, because I share it with everybody. And then they realize we have power over our lives if we have power over our thoughts. So this is a strange time, granted. I have never experienced anything like this in my lifetime. I don't think any of you have. So we can randomly accept those thoughts of fear and mayhem, or we can choose our thoughts. And from that recognition came this group, this idea that if we can cultivate our thoughts collectively, man, imagine what we can achieve. And we're still kind of near the beginning of it, meaning the 55 days. And my belief when I started this group was that by June 1st, we'll be moving back, if not back, to some semblance of normalcy. So let's invest this time, while many people are quaking in their boots, really fearful, let's invest this time in being better. Now, if it were just an exercise program, it wouldn't be enough. But it is a program, and I want you to understand that. If you're just joining us for the first time, the group may appear overwhelming. I'm going to try to give you some clarity on that. But there is a specific program, and we are about to enter the third week of the program. But if you're just starting, you could start now. The program is built on scientific principles, 42 principles. You can find them in the files section of the Facebook group. The group is not only a program and not only principles, but is guidance. And you're being guided by medical and fitness and health professionals who usually, typically, get a fair amount of money for what they do. But collectively, we've all come together to make sure that all of you get guidance without any investment at all, any financial investment. This is unity. This is important. When I say unity, it's confusing. If you just walk around and ask people, what should I eat? You will get so many conflicting opinions. In fact, people will almost get violent. You can't eat meat. It's bad for you. You've got to be a vegan. Stop with the vegan stuff. I'm a carnivore. You can't be a pure carnivore. You got to go paleo. You got to go keto. It's confusing, and because people are misinformed or confused, they don't know how to get where they want to get to. So here, we're approaching this with unity. We're giving you principles that are absolute. We're giving you a program that works. Tasso said he lost me. Are you guys still hearing me? Somebody give me a sign. Okay, good. Can somebody type that for Tasso, just in the chat window, just say, Phil's still here, Tasso. You got to come back. Camaraderie. It's what we're doing now. You guys from all around the country, all around the continent, actually, are just chatting and uniting in a Facebook group and in a window, and you kind of know each other and you feel like kindred spirits. Right? And just as I alluded to when I started, you are also gaining power from this group because you're gaining control over your thoughts. So this is sounding like a pretty good thing. Now, When I say there's a program, I know this is challenging sometimes for people to understand until they understand this principle. How could a program that works for an athlete, we have some very high-level thoroughbred athletes in this group, work for you if you're 62 years old and you haven't exercised since you were in college? How could it? Or if somebody's overweight and they've gone on all of these weight loss programs, and now they're in a group where we're talking about things like all-out burst and the functional six, how could it be for you? Here's the principle you need to understand. We are all the same. And we are all different. We are all the same and we are all different. Sounds a little contradictory, but it isn't. It's absolutely true. Because when I raise my arm up in the air, I am moving from my shoulder joint. And when I want to look over my right shoulder, I do it by turning my head, which rotates on the vertebrae of my spine. Same as you. And if I drop something, I'm going to bend from the knees and bend from the waist. I'm going to bend from the hip joint and the knee joint to pick it up. Same as you. Because biomechanically, we are all the same. So if I want to strengthen my gluteus maximus, which I do, and you do too, then the movements that work for me will work for you. Because biomechanically, we are the same. But I may be stronger than you, or you may be stronger than me. I may have more fast twitch muscle fiber, and you may have more slow twitch muscle fiber. So we're different. So the intensity will be different. I might have a different stress threshold than you. I might have different food preferences than you. I have a different metabolism than you. And you have a different metabolism than your neighbor, who has a different metabolism than his wife, who has a different metabolism than her cousin. But what works to nourish the cousin's body works to nourish yours. So we are the same, but we are different. So this program is built upon those two principles. Biomechanically, we all move the same. So we have the same number of muscles, we have the same number of bones, we have the same number of joints, we articulate from the same points. So I can design an exercise routine that works for a human being, and that's exactly what I've done. But how do we accommodate the differences? We break it into categories. So the thoroughbred is somebody who's already athletic, who's already fit but wants to be more fit. So they would need to be challenged at a higher intensity than somebody on the other end of the spectrum, what I call the chrysalis. The chrysalis is somebody who's always wanted to be in better shape but has never really been what they would consider fit. So in order for them to improve without overexerting themselves, they'd have to work at a lower intensity than the thoroughbred. And then we have the phoenix. And the phoenix is somebody who looks at their past and remembers what it was like to be in the shape they want to be in now. They go, well, before I got married, I was in great shape. Before I got this job, I was in great shape. Back when I graduated high school. So they have the actual memory. And with that, they have what we call muscle memory, cellular memory. But they've moved away from that. So there are versions of the program divided into three different categories. So we handle the sameness and the individuality. So if you're a thoroughbred, you'll have the more challenging program. Phoenix, a little bit less, but still challenging. And the chrysalis, what we'll say doable with lots of room to progress. All right, I said that the group in Facebook can be a little overwhelming because there is an absurd amount of information. I say that lovingly, really. There's so much information because everybody's giving. That's why. Sonia today gave a really nice long talk. She's a licensed mental health counselor. And anybody watching was able to relate to her passion, her caring, her empathy. But she's doing this out of the goodness of her heart. And if you've sat in on my talks with Dr. Bleiweiss, you can tell he's genuine. Everybody's putting out information. Tammy lets us in her kitchen every single day, and Tasso we go in his shower sometimes. We go from his church to his shower. Because they care and because they're putting out information to help you. So when you get into this group, there's a tremendous amount of information. So I want to give you just a quick little primer on navigating this. This is what it looks like when you go to the 55 Days page. You can save the URL, or you can just go in the little search window in Facebook and just type in 55 Days, and it should take you there. You'll see on the left-hand side, it says Files, and if you go into the files, you'll find Files. Isn't that clever? Now, if you're doing this on your phone, if you look to the right, you'll also find it says Files in a little bit of a different place, but you'll find it. So when you click on Files, here are some of the files that you'll find. So as something gets uploaded to the group, it may be at the very top of the post, and then it seems to disappear because with every new post, it moves down and moves down and moves down. So here's how you find it. You just go into Files, and it's there. So you'll see the 42 principles. You'll see the routines, 9, 12, and 14-minute routines. You'll see As a Man Thinketh. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Just do it once or twice, and you'll get the hang of it. Now, also, all of the coaches have their own, we'll call it a show. And the shows move fast, and they're upbeat, and they're fun, and they're informative. And the same is true, that when it's on, it's live, and then it starts to move down in the posts. But you can find any previous show by going to where it says Topics. And you'll see if you click on Topics, it lists all of the different shows. So if you love the Holly show, or you love Jim's Get Outside, you click on that and you get all of the different episodes. If you're wondering what you're missing, don't miss anything. So as soon as we finish this, the first thing you should do is go to where it says Notifications. In your phone, you might have to go to Settings when you're in the group, and then Notifications. And make sure that your notifications are checked so that you receive notifications from this group. Otherwise, you won't. So it's very simple. Just check that you want to receive every time a post is posted. If it gets to be too much, you can edit that. But I think it'll keep you really connected. Is this helpful so far? When you go into the topics, you're going to see the names of all of the different shows. So if you're brand new here, then the best thing you could do is just explore. Like, just check them out. Because here's my belief. Some of you will resonate with Dr. Kristen Camella. And some of you will say, yeah, she's a little much. I don't know. She's doing the stuff on the bike and the oxygen and the cryo. That's not my speed. But then you'll discover Holly. And you go, oh, yeah, she's making this really simple. I could do these push-ups the way she's showing me. And some of you will resonate with Tony's motivation. And some of you will get a kick out of Troy dressing like a turkey. I can't speak to your individual desires because remember, we're all different, but we've got it all. So go to the topics and just spend a little time exploring, seeing, who you most feel connected with, and hopefully you'll feel connected with everybody. Now, when you go to the files, there's one file that is called Come In and Explore. Download that file, and you'll see it lists all of the shows along with the times that they're on live. The great thing about them being live is you can interact. It's completely interactive. You post comments and we answer you. So download this, and when you download it, all of these little images are actually links. So you'll just click on one, and it'll take you to all of the shows. Okay, so that should make it simple, at least now, for you to just kind of explore and get the hang of this. Because again, if you just jump in there, it absolutely seems overwhelming. I get that. I am not a Facebook expert by any means. I am not a Facebook groups expert. I'm learning as we go, too. So in trying to make it simple for myself, I'm making it simple for you, I hope. And you let me know. If you run into challenges, you have questions or suggestions or ideas, or you are a Facebook groups expert, I'm ready to receive. Give me anything you got. I'm listening. So when you're exploring, make sure that you access the webinar for the week. If you're here live, well, you're here live, but if you missed the first two, you can go back and find those. With every webinar, you will get a copy of the slide presentation. And typically there will be an at-a-glance handout, which there will be for tonight. You can, as I just showed you, using one of those different methods, either downloading the PDF or just going to where it says topics, you can view the schedules and search the different coaches. And you're in control because you can post anything you want. And if you ask a question, we will respond, I'm promising. If you post a thought or a comment or a question, it will not get ignored. All right, I spoke about thoughts, and I also speak quite a bit about mindset. And it's not because I love speaking about mindset, it's because it's really important. And as I explained previously, I learned to view mindset as mechanical. Because if I can view it as mechanical, I can make adjustments and tweaks and fix it and change it. So there are three predominant parts of mindset that I shared briefly, but I want to get a little bit further into it for your benefit. I want you to understand how we can work these mindset muscles. They are not actual muscles, but this is a metaphor. Because just as with a muscle, the more we work to develop control over each of these elements of mindset, the better we get at controlling them. So the first one is called the emotional experiential memory. This is really important to your survival. It keeps you from doing really stupid stuff that will end your life. So the EEM, emotional experiential memory, takes emotions of pain or fear, associates them with an avoidance response, and makes sure that once this is identified as something dangerous, it keeps you safe by helping you avoid it. So here is the quintessential example. Once in your life, you were a toddler, and you were wandering around the kitchen, and your mom was cooking something and cutting up some vegetables and not really paying 100% attention to you, and you saw that the top of the stove was really bright and shiny. And being a toddler who's learning to become a child, you're going to learn through your sense of touch. So you look at this shiny thing and you go, okay, it's registering, it's shiny, it's attractive, I think I like it. I'm going to put my hand on it. And you put your hand on the hot stove. Now, in a millisecond, before you even begin to cry, before you consciously recognize that you're in pain, your EEM stores this. Because neural impulses shoot through to your brain. Stove, hot, hot, pain, pain, danger. And then you cry, and then your mom comforts you and puts some ice on it, and then you're okay. But your EEM stored that, and you never, ever, ever did it again. Like when you were 19, you didn't go, I wonder if I could put my hand on that now. Now, this wasn't conscious. You just learned. So this makes sense. Some people have a fear of dogs. Some people have a fear of snakes. Maybe because of something that happened when they were a child. They don't even remember. But the EEM helps you survive by steering you away from those things that it equates with pain. Now that sounds really good, and the EEM is good in that regard. The challenge is the EEM doesn't reason. You can't negotiate with it. If it assumes that something is dangerous, it doesn't really assume, it locks it in. So let's say at some point in your life you go on a weight loss program, and you're starving, and you're horribly uncomfortable, and it causes you pain, and you can't sleep at night, and you feel miserable, and then you fail, and then you're embarrassed. The EEM stores this as weight loss program equals pain. Now, what you might do is seek out something that brings pleasure, like cheesecake. So you could see how that very simple, unintentional association can lead to lifetime habits or rituals unless it's interrupted. if when you were younger you tried playing a sport and you got injured, your EEM said sport's dangerous. Don't do that anymore. So your EEM serves you, but if you don't recognize its programming, it's possible that it will keep you away from things that will actually serve you. And when people use words like but and can't in their subconscious thinking, that's usually the EEM trying to keep them away from what it perceives to be painful. If you went on an excessive exercise program with a personal trainer and he overtrained you and you didn't realize it, but you got really sore, the next time you thought about starting an exercise program, the EEM said, no, I know you're having the thoughts, but I'm going to give you a but thought so you don't do it. I'm going to give you a can't thought so you don't do it. Now, if you're looking at your screen, you're seeing a man standing on the peak of a mountain with a wingsuit. Why would he do that? Because he's going to jump. Oh, you mean, Phil, this man is so depressed he's suicidal? No. I mean, he's going to jump with his wingsuit because he believes that he's going to fly. And he does. I would call this extreme. But his EEM doesn't fear this. He gets invigorated by it because there's another part of mindset called the prefrontal cortex, the PFC. The prefrontal cortex is where you create imagination. Most people would be shaking standing at the top of a peak like that. Because their EEM says, no, get me to safety. But when somebody has a super active prefrontal cortex, we might call them an adrenaline junkie. They like speed. They like challenge. They like danger. Because they're wired that way. So when they look in research at individuals who work a very regimented schedule, they wake up at the same time every day. They go to the office every day at the same time. They leave the office at the same time. They work in a cubicle when they're there. They come home, they watch the same shows on TV, and they go to bed. They have very little electrical activity in the prefrontal cortex because they're not thinking outside of what we would call their proverbial box. But a mountain climber or a diver, they've got crazy activity going on in that prefrontal cortex that makes them look at a mountain and go, that would be cool to jump off of. Far too many people, because they've been shut down, as I described earlier, stop daydreaming. Be reasonable. Stop thinking that way. Be safe. They literally give up activity in their prefrontal cortex, and they get locked in, and they get stuck. And I met a lot of people who were stuck until we can change their mindset. And then suddenly it's like the restrictions of the EEM are lifted, and they start to see possibility. So if you think of it like a muscle, if I ask you what you would like the outcome of this 55 days to be, and you go, I don't know. And I go, I want you to picture it. You go, I can't. You got to get rid of that word can't. You have to realize that you've got to develop this prefrontal cortex, not for me, for you. So it's sort of like a tug of war going on. We want the EEM to keep us safe. We don't want to release the duties of the EEM. I mean, then we'll do really stupid stuff. Like, who needs a wingsuit? I could do it without a wingsuit. So we need the EEM. But we need a healthy balance so we can move forward and create new possibility and get unstuck. And a huge part of moving toward an outcome that we want is gaining control of your internal GPS, which is your reticular activating system. It is the mechanism in your brain that controls where you place your attention. And if you're placing your attention every day on the same donut shop, then you're probably going to repeat the same behaviors. If you can place your attention on the outcome you could achieve if you change the ways you eat, think, and move, you might find donuts are not really that important. So the PFC, the EEM, and the RAS are the muscles of mindset, metaphorically, that you can gain control over and get unstuck. So now that I showed you that, isn't it simple? You just focus on the outcome that you desire, right? Simple. No, not so simple. Not so simple because people are very stuck. They're stuck in their circle. They may have a thought like, I'd really like to lose weight. But the challenge is, because they're wired to their previous thoughts and rituals and behaviors, they literally walk around the same circle. And if you go from one point on a circle to another point on the circle, it's going to keep taking you in a circle. So this 55 days is your opportunity to get out of your circle, to get unstuck. Billy's asking me if I would do that. I'm assuming you mean jump with a wingsuit, and I have a real simple answer for that. No, not in a million years would I do that. But I've done skydiving, and it was great. Really, it was fantastic. I loved it. And when I did it, I said, I'm going to do this all the time, but the truth is I never did it again because it seems like, why jump out of a good plane? But honestly, so I did have the experience and I loved it, but I think I have a healthy balance between PFC and EEM. So the thought of jumping off a mountain with a wingsuit, it's not for me. Is that what you were asking me, Billy? Would I do that? So that circle that people stay in is what I call your circle of discontent. Now, that doesn't mean sadness. It doesn't mean misery. But there are things in your life that you'd like to change. And when you're stuck in your circle of discontent, you fail to acknowledge that these things are changeable by you. And that is precisely why you're stuck. So I want you to at least recognize your circle of discontent. I don't want you to get stuck in it. I don't want you to focus on it. I just want you to acknowledge it. There are things in your life that you're not thrilled with. And I have found this to be very important in really motivating people to get out of bad behaviors into better ones. Is just the acknowledgement gives you responsibility, not blame, but you have the ability to respond and change something. So within your present circle of discontent, this is a really good time to reflect. I don't love my body. I don't love my energy. I don't love my sleep habits. And I've always blamed it on having to get up early and go to work, and right now I'm sheltering at home. This would be a great time to make some changes. Because when you change the wiring and you change the habits, then they will stay with you. So you got to somehow get out of the circle. Where do you go? To your future memory. What does my future memory feel? I don't know. That's up to you. You've got to call upon that prefrontal cortex and literally create it. It answers the question, what do you want? And if the answer is, I don't know, then you've got to simply work on it. How? Ask again and ask again because you're working a muscle. And then you get a little glimmer of something. I would like to lose 10 pounds. Bingo. At least we're making progress. No longer is it I don't know. So now the idea is you figure out how to get out of your circle and move toward your future memory. How do you do that? Well, you've got to invest some energy in working that prefrontal cortex. You've got to literally ask yourself, what do I really want? And stay with that question until you can answer it. And when you begin to answer it, it might take you an hour, it might take you a day, it might take you a week, it might take you a month. But when you begin to answer it, it's like the gates open. And from there, you begin to construct a moment in time, as if it's a memory. I asked you to remember a time in your life that felt really good. You can do that. And in all likelihood, you're constructing a moment. You're reconstructing an event. So what you want to do is get your brain to recognize this imagination as if it's an event. And if it truly is an event, it wouldn't only be something you see, it would be multisensory. So you begin to construct a moment in time, and then you color it in with sound, with images, and with emotions. And now you have a place you can go. If you do your meditations with Ariel, you're getting a sense that you can travel a little bit, even sitting in place. So what if you can travel to this event that hasn't happened yet, but is going to? That is a future memory. And the more you connect with the emotions of the positive event that you construct, the more your brain starts to associate it as if it's true. And if you access it every day, literally for 5 minutes, then you start to recognize it not as an imagination, but as an inevitable outcome that simply hasn't happened yet. You're on your way to the future memory. And if you're looking at your screen, that line that runs from your circle of discontent to the moment that hasn't happened yet, your future memory, it becomes what is called your creative tension line. It's like a bungee cord, like a slingshot. When you put tension in that cord by creating a higher and higher and higher memory, one of two things happens. If you don't have belief that it will really happen, the bungee cord snaps. But if you believe it, it becomes momentum and propels you there like a slingshot. Consider walking up the down escalator. You can go forward and stay in place. And if we think of the down escalator as what is called entropy, like if you do nothing, you will move backwards. So you've got to put some energy in just to stay where you are. But when you get that force of creative tension, it propels you up toward that future memory. Now, this may sound abstract until you start to do it. And I'm promising you it changes everything. So now, is it easy? No. Why? Because there are monsters. For real. There are monsters, and they are in your life, and they've been there, and now when I point them out, you're going to go, you know what, you're right, Phil. I do have those monsters in my life. But I'm going to show you how to defeat them. The first one says things to you like, oh, wait, why are you getting up off the couch? It's so comfortable. Just stay there a little while. Wait. You're enjoying doing what you're doing. Why should you get up now? It's a good time to nap. If you nap, you'll feel rested. See, the monster comes across as if it's a friend, but it's not. It's an evil monster that shuts you down, and it has a name, and its name is procrastination. And when you say, I'll start my workouts Monday, and I'll start eating clean on the 1st, and I'll wait till New Year's, you didn't realize it, but that's the monster doing that to you. It's not you, it's your monster. And procrastination has a really good friend who's every bit as devious. His name is distraction. He makes you think it's really important to watch The Housewives of Atlanta or The Kardashians or The Bachelor or whatever is on Netflix that you're going to now binge watch until the end. So when distraction and procrastination get you, they're behaving as they put their arms around you. They go, hey, come on, sit on the couch. Let's watch some more. Let's watch the next episode. It's like, hey, my buddies are here watching. They're shutting you down. Now, the third monster, this is a really bad one and maybe the worst. This is the negative talk monster. And negative talk can be external, where other people say things to you like, why are you wasting your time? You know you can't get fit. Why are you doing that now? You know you're not going to stick with the routine. Why are you eating clean? You know you're going to go back to eating ice cream. And the more the negative talk monster comes at you from external sources, the more you catch the I can't. See, it begins with other people shutting you down, but then it gets into your brain. And you start to think things like, I can't change this behavior. I can't quit smoking. I can't give up sugar. And then you give yourself labels. You go, I'm a sugarholic. I'm a carb addict. That's not true. It's a monster. So these monsters will shut you down. And then probably the most insidious one is worry. Because worry locks you into a circle of discontent. I can't get fit. I'll always be fat. What am I going to do about it? I don't know. I have to keep working. Because if I stop working, then I won't have any money. If I don't have any money, I won't be able to buy healthy food anyway. So what am I going to do about it? I don't know. I guess I'll always be fat. Then I'll be miserable. This is worry. There's no escape. Worry finds you in a hole, gives you a shovel, and says, come on out. Just dig your way out. You're digging a deeper and deeper hole. So has anybody ever met these monsters? Just give me a yes if you have. Have you met at least one of them? How do you battle the monsters? Heroes. That's how you battle monsters, with heroes. And the good thing is there are 4 heroes, and they will destroy the monsters if you learn to call upon them and strengthen them. If you never call upon them, they're impotent. The more you call upon them, the stronger they get. So clarity, like future memory muscle, that gives you clarity as to where you're headed and what you want. Discipline shuts down procrastination and distraction. Focus, connecting with that future memory every day, changing your RAS, and planning. Not just thinking you'll figure it out tomorrow, but actually planning before you go to bed tonight. What are you going to do tomorrow? So now you have heroes. But where do you find them? In your journal. Seriously. They show up when you invest some energy in thinking forward and writing your thoughts. You've heard Heather talk about it. You've heard Kristen talk about it. You've heard Tasso talk about it. You've probably heard all the coaches talk about it, Ariel. Because we all do it because it works. So it is a great weapon. It is a great tool. The only 6 things that can limit you, the only 6, are an overly restrictive EEM that holds you back with but and can't, an underdeveloped PFC that doesn't let you see the outcome, and the 4 monsters. So you want to defeat those monsters and erase any chance of any monster or EEM or holding you back. And it starts with the creation of a strong I am. I am powerful, I am strong, I am confident. I am in control of my thoughts. I am able to defeat the monsters. I'm giving you examples. But this is what goes in your journal. This is what becomes your affirmation. Because I told you, when you control your thoughts, you control your destiny. Now, what if your heroes aren't yet strong enough? Then what do? You're in this group. You have superheroes. That's why they're here. Not only do you have the 4 heroes, you've got all of the superheroes too. So this is your massive opportunity. If you want to get better, do it. Every single tool you ever needed is right here for you in this group. Understand that it is vitally important, if you've lived your life in adrenal stress, as most people have, that you come back to the place of what is called homeostasis. I call that optimal state, a state of recovery. If you want to get better, you've got to get to that state. In order to get to that state, you've got to balance stress, load, and recovery. I'm giving you the tools from week to week, and everybody's here to support you. You've got to have the belief that change is possible, not for everyone else, but for you. And then there has to be a progression, and I'm going to give you the progression today. When we started, I spoke about specific systems of the body. We talked about the lymphatic system. We talked about the respiratory system. Now we're going to integrate all of them. You're going to really develop your body. So Everything that you did up until now was preparation for this moment. This week, the true transformation really begins. This week, you will do the 9, 12, or 14-minute routine. This week, you will do modest or aggressive cardio, depending on your category, chrysalis, phoenix, or thoroughbred, with an all-out burst. This week, you will continue metabolic eating, but you'll do it better than you did. This week, you will sleep and you will hydrate. You will laugh, love, and listen. You will create your I am, your future memory, gratitude, and begin to experience creative tension. So, those who were with me last week, you went through this with Holly, you went through this with Holden and Kristen. You've seen the routines, you've experienced the routines, so you're familiar with the 9-minute routine. And if you just looked at it last week, but you were intimidated by it, Holly is going to get you through this week. Anyone can do this. What I love about the way Holly presents is she says, do this, and if you're not ready to do this, here's a modified version. And anybody watching it is going to go, well, yeah, I can do that. And she shows you how to progress, which I just told you is vitally important. 12-minute routine is a step up, a little more advanced. It's not only 3 minutes. It's different movements. We're using rotation. We're using balance. And then some of you this week will progress into, when I say 14-ish, it might be 15 and a half minutes. It doesn't have to be precise. But you're going to challenge yourself with this routine. It's a good routine. I've been doing it this week. I love this routine, honestly. Anybody else? Has anybody else been doing this routine, the 14 minutes-ish? If not, you're going to. And if you're an athlete and you're a thoroughbred and you're going, 14 minutes, man, I can do 90 minutes in the gym. Are you kidding me? I do 18 sets of bench presses every single day in my sleep. Then visit with Holden. You'll see. Holden will challenge you with this routine. And when it becomes easy, without changing to a more advanced routine, he'll make this routine more advanced. Am I right, Holden? I don't want to read every comment, but I hope you guys are following along in the chat window because it's kind of entertaining. Aileen, are you saying that Holden did challenge you, or are you inviting him to? She says, Holden challenged me 14 minutes-ish. That means he did, or he's about to. Because those of you who mastered the 12-minute routine, you're going to progress. So Holden may be your best friend this week. If you're a thoroughbred, then you're going to, starting tomorrow, do this 14-minute routine with an uber-challenging intensity. Don't think you need to do more. If you think you need to do more, you're not working hard enough. If you're doing those squats and turning in the air as you do them, and you go, that's easy, then do them with dumbbells. And if you're doing that, and you go, well, that's easy, then do them with heavier dumbbells. And if you say, that's easy, do them with dumbbells over your head. We can always step it up. The Phoenix will go to the 12-minute routine tomorrow and then progress to the 14-minute routine. The Thoroughbred will do 30 minutes of aerobic exercise with 2 to 3 all-out bursts. I'll talk about that in a second. The Phoenix will do 20 minutes of aerobic exercise with 2 all-out bursts, and the Chrysalis will now do a minimum of 8 minutes of cardio. Now, I know if you're a Chrysalis, you probably tried some fitness things before, and one of the things you tried was walking or some kind of aerobic exercise, but it didn't get you the result you want. And if you were walking for 40 minutes or an hour, understand this is a different mechanism. We're training the body differently. This is not just walking. So by doing the 8 minutes of aerobic exercise after you do a routine and challenging yourself with an all-out burst, it's not what you did before. It's something totally different. So you've got to trust. So whichever category you fall into, please trust the routine. I said all-out bursts. Who here knows what an all-out burst is? Just give me a sign if you go, yeah, I'm doing all-out bursts and I love it. If you don't, it's not just interval training. An all-out burst is exactly what it sounds like. You're doing aerobic exercise, rhythmic movement, large muscle groups, and for 12 seconds, you are kicking it up to as hard as you possibly can. So if you're on an elliptical climber and you're going and going and going, when you hit that beginning of the all-out burst, it is literally as fast as you can, as hard as you can. Now, I know there are some fitness trainers here, and some of you, if you're not familiar with my work, you'll hear that and you go, well, you can't jump up to a maximal heart rate. You're not going near a maximal heart rate. This is purely perceived exertion. Because the idea is, it's not the circulatory system, it's the parasympathetic recovery system that we're targeting. We're kicking things up, very short duration, very high intensity, so it's kind of like the recovery parachute opens. This has a profound outcome on weight loss resistance, on reversing chronic disease. It is so efficient in bringing about positive change. So if you go, well, I like that, so I'm going to do a 20-minute all-out burst, then it's not all out. If you can go 20 seconds, if you can go 20 seconds, you're not hitting it hard enough. You should literally hit that point at 12 seconds. You go, ah, and you don't stop. You just go back to a modest pace. So you're seeing some of the comments here. Anybody who's doing this loves it. You know why? Because not only does it bring about an amazing and profound change, but it stimulates endorphins. Somebody sent me an email today telling me that the all-out burst gives him endomorphins. I believe he meant endorphins, but I like that word. I'm going to start to use that, endomorphins. So here are the variations based on category. You'll be able to download this. Slight variations, but really radically different in terms of the category. So here's the plan, because we use the hero planning. We use all the heroes. We're now in the third week, so we're being real specific. Metabolic optimization, meaning we're stimulating metabolism, optimizing metabolic energy, and we are increasing intensity from last week. So there is a plan. Now, a part of the plan, as I spoke about last week, is we want good in and bad out. We want good air coming in, and we want to get all the bad stuff out of the lungs. We want good bacteria coming in and colonizing. We want the bad bacteria to leave. So when I say good in, bad out, I could be referring to air, toxins versus lymph, getting the toxins out of the cell and restoring cellular integrity, improving the microbiome, and nutritionally, it's not only about eating better, it's also about removing the bad stuff. Because when we eat, we don't only eat for pleasure. I mean, some people do. And that's part of the challenge. And by the way, Tammy will echo this. You should enjoy your eating. And Billy will too, I know, because he has Tammy. 27 years of Tammy. We eat so that we can take in material from which to build new healthy cells. So when you've heard the saying, you are what you eat, it's true. You want to eat good materials so you can build good cells. And we eat for energy. And all of a sudden there's this word that everybody's aware of, that all of the coaches have been using for decades, immunity. We need to have strong functional immune systems, and that comes from, in great part, the foods that we eat, as well as CI3, cellular integrity, intelligence, and interactivity. So I gave you some guidelines, I gave you some rules, and we've heard that colorful foods are good, right? Well, it's not enough to say colorful foods. Because jelly beans are colorful. Pez, they still make Pez. It's colorful. The marshmallows and Lucky Charms are colorful. Trix cereal, colorful. Starburst, colorful. M&M's, colorful. So we've got to get the bad stuff out. You've got to get rid of the energy disruptors. We must, if we're going to really take control of the way our bodies look, feel, and function. Get the bad thoughts out, the good thoughts in. We've got to get the sugars out. Refined bleach and processed carbohydrates, out. Genetically modified foods, out. Bleached and processed foods, out. Chemical additives, out. Alcohol, out. I know some of you cringed from that, but you know what? It's because you're stuck in your circle of discontent. Am I saying you can never have a glass of wine again? No, I would never say that. But I'm saying if you want to get the maximal benefit out of this 55 days, then recognize the difference between what's good and what's bad. Now, what about fruits? I have to tell you, this has been a point of contention with me for a very long time because people misinterpret and misunderstand what I say. And very often they go, well, you said fruits are bad. And I never in my life said fruits are bad because fruits are wonderful. They're high in phytochemicals and phytoestrogens and immune boosters, and they're water dense, and they have anti-carcinogens, and they taste really, really good. So I would never say fruits are bad. However, fruits are high in sugar. And because so many people who have weight loss resistance or insulin disruption or blood sugar irregularities have heard that fruits are healthy, they will have a fruit salad believing it's a good meal, and they get a sugar spike. So let's recognize that fruits are really good and healthy. But if you have insulin resistance or weight loss resistance or compromised energy, let's work on restoring metabolism first. And in those cases, you do want to minimize your intake of fruit. It doesn't mean they're off limits. When you have fruits, you just don't have them by themselves because that will give you the blood sugar spike. So a fruit would be the fibrous component of a meal, the fibrous carbohydrate. When you consume fruit with a protein and or a good fat, it slows the release of the sugar. So there's room for fruit, and they're healthy and they help with the immune system. So during this 55-day period, follow the eating guidelines to the best of your ability. Don't seek perfection. Prepare for the circadian phases. There are 3 phases of what I call circadian nutrition. The first one is metabolic optimization. That's where we are now. The second one will be aimed at fat loss, and the third one will be aimed at detox and cleansing. So right now, just stay with me. I'll guide you through these phases. Attend every weekly webinar. They're Monday nights. If you can't attend it live, get the recording. Learn to make the most natural food choices possible. There's going to be a learning curve. And this is a good time to explore farmers markets. Somebody just told me today that there's a farmers market locally where you call them and they have $10 boxes of fruit and $10 boxes of vegetables. It's all fresh. It's all organic. You don't choose what they put in there, but they give you an assortment. So this is a good time to, when the supermarkets are kind of uncomfortable right now and odd. And it's a nice time to try to explore some other options and learn. Okay, I told you there are 3 phases of circadian nutrition. Right now we're in the first, metabolic eating. Each meal will contain a natural source of protein, organic. If you're going to have meat, it should be grass-fed, chicken and eggs, pasture-raised, and the meal should be free of sugar, refined bleach, or processed carbohydrates. Ideally, you will have 3 or 4 evenly spaced meals every day. Each meal will contain a protein-sparing nutrient, and a fibrous carbohydrate, and no alcohol. When you look at this list, many people go, well, it's so boring. I mean, there's just salmon and chicken and turkey and eggs and beef and buffalo and lamb. And it makes me laugh because when I ask people what they eat, and I take out a pen, a yellow pad, a pen, they go, tell me what you normally eat. And they tell me. I go, okay, what will be another meal? They tell me. Tell me another one. They tell me. They stop at about 8. Like eating the same 8 meals. So much can be done with this simple list. What I love is that Tammy takes us into her kitchen. Here's what she made tonight. Salmon with mango. And, I have to say that eating healthy for me years ago, when I was competing, when I was an athlete and competing, was a chore. But when you watch Tammy, there's an art to it. And when you listen to her husband, Billy, you want what Tammy's cooking. So the beauty of this group is you get, for free, my Metabolic Meals recipe book. It's in the file section. All you have to do is download it. And what Tammy has been doing, with some exceptions and variations, she's been going through the book and preparing the meals right there live. And you can interact with her, 5 o'clock every single day. So really the excuses are none. Everybody here should be ready and able to master this. Wendy says, so good, exclamation mark, amazing meals, exclamation mark. She also says her family has loved all the recipes she's tried so far. So if you've been watching and not following, you got to follow. If you haven't been watching, you got to watch. If you think you will next week, then you got to realize there are monsters in your midst. Get the heroes. All right, I know there's a lot going on in this chat window, but right now, if you have any specific thoughts, comments, questions before I wrap it up, it's a good time to post them. Here is a little bit of a summary. Kicking it up a notch, exercise routine. You'll do the 9, 12, or 14-minute routine, depending on your category. You will do aerobic movement, 8 minutes if you're a chrysalis. If you want to do more, you can. It says to 20 minutes, but you could do 30 minutes if you're a thoroughbred. You'll do this routine every day. You will not overtrain by doing this routine every day. 3 to 4 equally spaced metabolic meals. Thoroughbred should absolutely get 4. I gave you some supplements that I said would be a baseline. None of these are needs, but they're certainly valuable in terms of health and immunity. Mindset, you will explore the power of creative tension. Get yourself out of your circle of discontent by developing a future memory and feeling the contrast between the emotions you feel in your present circle of discontent and the emotions you feel when you travel to that future memory. Sleep 7 to 8 hours. Drink lots of water. Laugh, love, and listen. I say this frequently, but I'm not just saying it like a wrap-up sort of catchphrase. When I talk about endomorphins, that's not a real word, I just like it. When I talk about endorphins, they are morphine-like substances that have receptor sites in your brain, so they're feel-good drugs that if you get them exogenously, they have a severe downside, but if you get them from laughter, there's only upside. So laugh. Whatever makes you laugh, access it. If you're watching Fox News or CNN, I'm not going to say don't, but I'm going to say don't exclusively watch that because that won't make you laugh ever. So balance it out. Find a show that makes you laugh. Saturday Night Live did a pretty good show where they were doing a Zoom call, like a spoof on a Zoom call last week. It was really funny. I mentioned this before. I love Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'll watch old reruns. Just cracks me up. I could also watch The Three Stooges and laugh. Now, not everybody will laugh. People just look at me like I'm an idiot because I'm laughing at The Three Stooges. But to me, they trigger that. I get endomorphins. When Curly says, I'm trying to think, but nothing's happening. That's funny to me. Not to everybody, but to me. So you've got to find the things that make you laugh. And ideally, laugh with other people. Because then it becomes contagious. Have things around that you love. Have people around that you love. If you love your pets, snuggle up to your pets. You need to experience these things because they contribute to immunity, honestly. And when I say listen, man, music is so very powerful. I don't know if there's anybody in the universe who would not love listening to John Lennon's Imagine. I mean, I know we have very different tastes in music. I mean, I always thought like I was really hip and cool, and I thought when I have kids, I'm going to be into the cool music they're into. And now, oh man, what my daughter listens to, I can't stand it. I hate it. So I don't love all music, but I love the music I love. So listen to the music you love. I know Kristen Camella loves 80s music and Adam Levine. So that's what she should listen to. I'm assuming she loves his music. If you love classical music, great. You know, my dad used to listen to Tchaikovsky 1812 Overture. And I know it's like classy to really enjoy that, but I never really enjoyed it. Like, I'd watch him and he really loved it. I don't. For a while I was listening to Bach, some Baroque music. I could also listen to a frequency, a 432 or a 528. You get, some of you know what I'm talking about. And if it has either Tibetan bowls over it or some kind of string music, this is very individual. So I'm not telling you to listen to the things I mentioned. I'm just saying evoke the positive emotions because they contribute to recovery. So when I say laugh, love, and listen, I'm asking you to take that seriously as a prescription. Arielle is snuggling her pet as I say it. And she has a pet cobra, which is really interesting. Kristen said, and booty music. Aileen threw in Marky Mark. All right, so are you guys ready to maximize this? Honestly, I have to say, I don't know if you're ever going to get an opportunity like this again. I mean, when the world comes back to its regular axis, when things start rotating as they once were, all of these experts and coaches are going back to their own universe, and they're going to go back to charging and making money and doing what they do. But for everybody to come together in the way they have, man, this is a gift and a blessing, and I appreciate every single one of you. Holden says Bob Marley. You know, I got to say the same thing about Bob Marley as I said about John Lennon. They were otherworldly, I believe, because their music is eternal. Is there anybody who doesn't like Three Little Birds? Seriously. So whatever the music is, it makes you feel good, man. Listen to it. Now's a good time. Today is 420. Interesting. Wow, today is 420. It's really interesting. Adele points out, Bob Marley is appropriate. All right, so we're going to call this a wrap, but it's not over. I was about to do a scene from Animal House, but I won't because some of you will have no idea what I'm talking about. But some of you do. And if you want to watch Animal House, that'll make me laugh. Any final thoughts, comments, questions from anybody? Billy loves Marley, just not to work out to. Adele loves everybody. She says thank you. John says why. I think that was a yes to a question from earlier. Holden says great talk. Is there a horse in my office? Billy asks if there's a horse in my office, and now I'm stumped. All right, and Aileen, wrapping it up beautifully, she says, oh, is there a horse in my office? All right. Sorry, I passed that. Aileen says, thank you all for all this motivation. We need it. We need it, we supply it, we share it, we maximize it, we create endomorphins, and until we speak again, be better, everybody. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. Bye-bye.